Pakistan says preparing to host talks between the U.S. and Iran, as President Trump says the terror regime does not have another option, as the Pentagon is reportedly preparing to put troops perhaps on the ground in a few weeks. Retired Navy Captain, former Pentagon official Brent Sadler joins us now. Hey, Brent, first off, what do you think happens with those talks? We're not going to talk directly. There's going to be intermediary. Turkey and Pakistan and Egypt are going to be there represented. Yeah, good morning, Brian. I don't have high confidence that we're going to get anything meaningful, certainly out of the first round or several rounds of these Pakistan-sponsored or hosted peace negotiations, but it does provide some insight as to what the Iranians are willing to give and what the Iranians, I guess, sentiments are. Maybe some insight also on how the government's fracturing, but there's quite frankly, the United States in a very strong position. There's nothing that should be given in order to get them to agree to end the hostilities. Evidently, their president, Presidian, is fighting with the head of the IRGC on next steps. It looks like the ones that are left don't agree on how to go forward. We know there's a huge disconnect between what they're saying about the Gulf states and what they're doing for the Gulf states, and that's hitting them pretty consistently. No, and this is the type of action that we should be seeing and want to see and encourage. And as the government there starts to splinter, and perhaps a form of it that we could live with, that's the one we should be talking with. So what do you think happens with the Marines, 5,000? They get there and the 1,000 from the 82nd. What do you think they should be doing? Yeah, so there's three waves of them. The first group of Marines are already there, about 2,200 of them. I think the Marines are suited for doing forced insertions or shore raids. I think this is what would be a good use to go after Iranian sites where they mass their small boats and their drones to attack shipping, not to stay, to go in and get back out, put Marines on some of the ships. There's 5 U.S. flag ships with U.S. citizens on board crewing them that are stuck in the Persian Gulf. So having a convoy and having those Marines on board visibly shows that the safe passage through the straits is possible. Confidence goes up. As far as the 82nd, the Army, that's, I think, a backstop to places like Kuwait, Bahrain, where we have U.S. forces already based to provide more security and more defenses. But this is not an invasion that's being massed. That would be a different scale in a massively different way than what you're seeing right now. I just thought if you want to see the disorganization, I understand that 3 Chinese-linked vessels full of oil were stopped from going into the strait. So if you're stopping the Chinese, who are your number one benefactor, who's making these decisions amongst the Iranians? It's a good question. I mean, the art and the business of shipping is not exactly transparent. And I think the Iranians, in trying to enforce their diktat, are starting to realize how hard it is to track where the cargo's going, who owns the ship, who's registered the ship. And usually they're not the same. Each one of those things is different. Perhaps it's confusion, perhaps it's intentional messages to Beijing, and I suspect Beijing is certainly supporting these talks in Pakistan. Real quick, the Houthi rebels rocketed Israel over the weekend. How do we make sure it ends there and they don't try to disrupt the Red Sea? Well, a couple of things on this part. The Houthis, quite frankly, are a proxy of Iran, and until Iran is no longer this current terroristic regime no longer in power, they're always going to be a problem. That cutting off the supply of arms been highly problematic because there's a lot of black marketing and smuggling. Even their enemies will smuggle weapons to the Houthis to make a buck on it. So it's very challenging. It's more than just cutting off the shipment from the sea, but certainly going after the Houthis if they do attack shipping aggressively in a very grand way would probably be called for, much like what President Trump did before this current kind of lull in the hostilities from the Houthis. Yeah, people forget the signal chat is where we're focused on, but the operation that took out the Houthis and neutralized them is really the story that the Biden administration didn't seem to make a priority. Brett Sadler, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become a Fox News Patriot today. Click join to find out how.